Yes, sir. We're officially back at it. This is Boog Nice coming at you with my top 10 Marvel Legends of 2017. Let's do it.
This ain't for no scalper. You a scalper? Then fuck out shit. This one's for them real collectors. That's army building and posing figures. Marvel Legends, imports, mini matey, I'm fucking with them. Hype beast, we know about you. Stay buying figs, don't know about it.
So 2017 was another huge year for Marvel Legends. They put out just under 100 figures, if I'm not mistaken. There may have been 100, there may have been more, but my guesstimate is at about 91, 92 Marvel Legends released in 2017. With that said, I'm going to say that for the second year in a row, I believe Marvel Legends to be the top toy company or brand for the year. Like I said, they've been very consistent. They have been bombarding us with waves after them having a sort of tumultuous start when Hasbro took over from Toy Biz, and they have definitely stepped it up and been consistent with giving us hit after hit. So I think that this year the actual waves and the Build-A-Figures were a little less exciting than the previous year, but I do still believe they put out a lot of great figures. And you know, I judge each brand on their own merit. I don't believe for one second that Marvel Legends are making better quality figures than Mezco or than some of the import companies in certain situations, but this line carries such a huge amount of fun factor, and they have been giving us tons of figures and tons of characters. So this grouping represents some of my top 10 picks and some honorable mentions, and I'll probably, I guess, throw you guys for a little loop and include maybe one or two figures that is not represented here in this group that will still make the top 10. So let's jump right into this, starting off at number 10. The Titus Build-A-Figure Wave Angela figure, and this is a little unprecedented here. I usually do not select female characters for top 10 figure of the year. I haven't in the past couple of years because, like I always say, throughout every single year that Hasbro does not upgrade the bucks for the female figures, we need double jointed elbows, we need an ab crunch, we need all of the articulation that they add to the male figures for them to add it to the female figures. But Angela was such a nice figure, and I think they did such a great job on this figure. And this was one I wasn't really rooting for because if you remember, this was part of the fans poll or fans choice some years back, and I felt like people didn't really vote for this figure. But being, you know, with that said, they still did a very, very nice job on this figure. The likeness to the character is great. The paintwork is great. I didn't really have any quality control issues. She just looks great, man. The stature of the figure, they got her size right. And this was one that was essential to trying to complete one of your Guardians of the Galaxy teams. So at number 10, I got Angela. Before we get into number 9, a few honorable mentions here. You're definitely not going to see any more female characters anywhere in my top 10, so let me knock these out. I do like the fact that we received a Sue Storm, Invisible Woman this year. I'm excited about the possibilities for having a complete, streamlined Fantastic Four from Marvel Legends. From what we've seen so far, we got Sue, we got Johnny Storm. It looks like this is going to be the best version of Fantastic Four that we've ever received in Marvel Legends. One of my gripes with this figure, however, was that they didn't include an interchangeable hand or maybe a whole arm swap that you can do on the right side, so that way you can have her completely relaxed and that, you know, it doesn't look like she's using her power if you're just trying to have her in a vanilla shot of some sort. And of course there was no ab crunch and no double jointed elbows. Mary Jane from the Toys R Us exclusive Spider-Man and Mary Jane 2-pack deserves a mention, just for the fact that we have female and civilian clothes, and for the possibilities for doing head swaps and getting some of the other superheroines in a relaxed state. So I thought that was really cool, but no ab crunch, no double jointed elbows. Not that we necessarily need it for this particular figure, but then again, if you want to use this figure to represent one of the other superheroines in street clothes, you might still want that range of motion. You know me, like I said, I want that range of motion on all the figures, regardless if it's male or female. But she deserves a mention, as does that Spider-Man from that pack. He didn't make the top 10. I'm not going to even show him here. But you know, any Spider-Man on that particular buck is gonna be great for the most part. And the Gladiator Hulk Build-A-Figure Wave Hella figure deserves a mention. This figure came out very nice. You know, if you know me, you know I'm not always a huge fan of movie figures, but I like the fact that this figure could kind of double as your regular Marvel Universe Hella. From what I understand, she was being drawn very similar to this in the comic books as of late or in the modern times. And this figure was really nice. But again, lack of articulation and the fact that it's a movie figure, for me personally, I wouldn't put it in my top 10, but she definitely deserves a mention. And another movie figure that deserves a mention, the Okoye Build-A-Figure. It was great to see a black woman as the BAF for a wave that a lot of people didn't really anticipate, but I feel like after more people get these figures from this particular wave in hand, they will really grow to love these figures. And I like this figure a lot, but again, like all of the other females, I'm going to keep mentioning this, she did not have an ab crunch or double jointed elbows, and that was essential for a character like this. But it was a beautiful head sculpt, and the possibilities for army building this body and having your Dora Milaje to protect Black Panther was great. And the Man-Thing Build-A-Figure Wave Jessica Jones figure, I would consider the Netflix characters sort of in the same vein as movie figures. So, you know, I'm not going to put too many of those type of figures in my top 10, because for me, it's really just about you know, the comic-based characters. But this particular buck was great. This body to kind of swap on different hands and swap on different heads was a great addition to my collection this year, and I had to mention this figure. This will be the last female figure that I mention in the top 10, but I just want to talk about other females that are not represented here in this grouping, like the Jean Grey or the Dark Phoenix from the Cyclops and Dark Phoenix 2-pack. That was a Toys R Us exclusive, if I'm not mistaken. The different interchangeable heads with that figure and being able to use those heads on the regular version that we got. And the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure Wave was great. And getting a Jewel figure this year was great. And we got an A-Force box set, and we were able to add to our ranks of that particular team. And who else did we get that was pretty cool? We got the Black Widow from the Vintage Wave, which I'll talk about a bit more later. But again, the thing that's lacking from all of these females is the ability for you to really pose them as dynamically as their male counterparts. In the Man-Thing Build-A-Figure Wave, we got that Elektra, and we saw people swap the arms off of the Marvel Legends and use arms from a Star Wars Black Series figure, and that can't happen in 2018. So Hasbro, if you're looking at this, Dwight, on one of you guys, if you're watching this, you gotta upgrade these female bucks, so that way they can contend with the males in 2018 and beyond. All right, coming in at number 9, the Sdcc 2017 exclusive Battle for Asgard box set, Ulik the Troll. So this figure was great. I think they used the perfect body mold for this figure, and even though they have reused this mold for Build-A-Figures, I guess twice over before this, so I guess this is thrice. This is the third time that they used this particular buck for BAF. And technically he wasn't a BAF, but we know that this buck was used for a BAF, so that's why I'm calling it that. But I think it was the perfect mold for this particular character. This is the first time we received this character in 6-inch form. This was one that they kind of, I guess, upscaled from the Universe figure, and they did a really good job. Everything about this figure was nice, aside from those two little holes that you see on the shoulders there. That was probably the only thing that was really an eyesore on this figure. And being able to expand the characters from your Asgardian universe was really nice, man. I really enjoyed this figure. So at number 9, Ulik. And before I get into number 8, I do believe that the Gladiator Hulk Build-A-Figure deserves an honorable mention. Another movie figure here, but I'm excited for the possibilities of a comic-based Hulk on this particular buck. And I do believe that will happen at some point in 2018. So this figure actually came out really nice, but again, I'm looking forward to the future of what they can do with this particular buck. And coming in at number 8 in my top 10 picks of 2017 is going to be the Man-Thing Build-A-Figure Wave Man-Thing Build-A-Figure. And one of my criteria for picking my top figures for any year is, was that figure released prior, and is this new figure better than the original release? And in that case, this figure is completely trumping the original Toy Biz Man-Thing that we received. My only gripe with this figure was that they didn't go the distance and give us the little add-ons that they intended to. It's my understanding that those holes in his back were intended to have some more appendages and like branches and shrubbery and things that you could add to the figure, but for whatever reason they couldn't get that done in time. That was what was told to me by Dwight Stahl. So hopefully at some point down the line they may be able to add that in. But this figure came out very, very nice. I feel like it was a sleeper hit. I feel like a lot of people kind of turned their nose up to the fact that this was going to be a BAF. And, you know, it was obscure. It was an obscure wave. And to throw this BAF in there with those figures from that wave was pretty cool. It was unexpected. And they did a really, really nice job on this figure. The sculpt, the size, and not to mention that you are maybe one figure away from completing Thunderbolt's team that he was, the original Thunderbolt's team that he was a part of. Because I think there was another version after that when some people left or whatever the case may be. But I think the last figure that we need is Songbird, if I'm not mistaken, for that grouping. So that was great to get us closer to another team completion, and this guy came out great. And a couple honorable mentions that will fall somewhere up around where I'm ranking Man-Thing in my top 10. But you know, they just didn't make the top 10, but I think they should be mentioned. So Colossus here from the Warlock Build-A-Figure wave, because one, I'm excited for the possibilities of another Colossus on this particular buck, maybe 80s version, or finally a good 90s Jim Lee version. So yeah, I think they did a really nice job on this Colossus figure. Only thing that I really wanted to see, well, I didn't really care about this costume too much. The figure grew on me though after I got it, but I wish that he had interchangeable hands, so you can get him with 2 fists or you know, 2 open hands or whatever the case may be. I kind of hate that he's got the fist and the open hand in his fixed position, and you know, when you just want to have him vanilla, that open hand is kind of a pain in the butt when you're taking pictures. You gotta adjust to that hand, and I don't really like that. But I do think this figure came out really nice. Being able to pair these two up was really nice as well. I guess you could kind of consider this a team of 2, brother and sister. You got the Doctor Strange box set, the Sdcc Doctor Strange box set, Magic and Colossus here, and they definitely appeared in the comics together in these 2 outfits, so that was really cool. And I think the Mantis Build-A-Figure Wave Death's Head 2 deserves an honorable mention. This figure came out really nice, and this was another sleeper figure to me personally, but just some issues with the articulation or lack thereof. You know, it had the basic articulation that you needed, but he needed something else in the head and neck area to really get his head to look up and forward when you got him in some dynamic poses and he's kind of shooting his cannon. And, you know, that it just didn't work. The head and neck articulation, while it was there, you know, when you pop off the head, you can see that the joint can move back and forth. His hair hindering the movement of the head going up was one of my gripes with the figure. I would have liked to see maybe some accessories for him to represent him blasting his hand cannon too. But it was nice that they included another interchangeable hand with him, and this guy came out okay. Coming in at number 7 was the Warlock Build-A-Figure Wave Old Man Logan, and this is not the figure completely represented in his original stock form. But the way the figure is represented here is one of the reasons that I really, really like this figure and why it made my top 10. The possibilities for you getting a relaxed street clothes Logan, which I think at some point we'll see in 2018. I think they'll probably reuse this body and do something for Logan on a motorcycle as part of that kind of new age legendary riders stuff that they doing with Ghost Rider and Black Widow. I think my man Todd had mentioned something about that, and I'd have to agree that I think we'll see Wolverine in street clothes at some point. But like I said, this is a custom head. Shout out to my man S13, and then I have the hands from the Wonder Man figure on him. But I do think Hasbro did a really nice job with this figure, even with the regular stock head that comes attached to the figure. I think it was nice, and the possibilities for actually taking this the arms and the jacket off of this guy and putting it on Cyclops. I think my man Punker Mike was the one that kind of pioneered that. I know his video tutorial for doing that is at a crazy amount of views right now. So that possibility with this figure, just this buck, just the possibilities for kit bashing with this particular buck made this figure very fun. And fun factor is just one of the important criteria when I'm picking my top 10. So yeah, number 7, Old Man Logan. And real quick before we get into number 6, I do believe that the vintage wave Wolverine deserves a mention. Last year, the Wolverine on this buck from the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure wave made my top 10. It was my number 1 figure of 2016. And so this guy deserves a mention. I can't really put a repaint in my top 10 though, although they did add the hair to the arms, and you know, I did say that if one figure trumps the previous version, then you know, that's part of the criteria. But you know, it is what it is. This is mostly just a repaint. There's nothing really new or innovative about this guy, but it's a great figure. It's nice, and that pretty much goes for all the figures from the vintage series. You know, none of them are gonna make my top 10 or made my top 10, but they all were very nice upgrades in terms of paint application. And coming in at number 6 was the Warlock Build-A-Figure wave Cyclops. We have been waiting forever for a redo of the 90s Jim Lee style Cyclops. The original one that we got many years ago from Toy Biz just couldn't cut it. Even then, it was still a questionable figure, but it was the only thing that we had. He was way too slender, and no question Hasbro Marvel Legends trumped that original version here. I did have some gripes with the figure. The fact that the straps on the thighs and on the upper boots were not fixed, and they kept falling off, and you had to glue them on basically if you wanted them to stay in place. And he should have definitely came with a set of interchangeable hands just to give the figure a little more personality. But like I mentioned with Old Man Logan, the possibility of taking that jacket off and kit bashing it and putting it on this body was really nice. The figure was just very clean, no major paint imperfections or quality control issues or anything like that. And this was one that I know was a fan favorite amongst a lot of collectors. Coming in at number 5 was the Titus Build-A-Figure wave Dark Hawk figure. I think this was a sleeper hit. They did a really nice job. They picked the perfect body mold. I like how they did the wings. I wish that the wings here were removable though. I wish you could get them in a relaxed state. But like I said, I do think this was a sleeper hit, and that this figure came out really nice. It's just that, you know, it's not a lot of supporting characters, so I don't think it was a fan favorite. And I think Moon Knight from the Vulture Builder Wings wave deserves an honorable mention. This was one that I really actually kind of passed on initially and wasn't too excited about it. For whatever reason, I wasn't feeling it when I first saw it at what was that, Toy Fair, I believe. And but after getting the figure in hand, it is a very nice figure. But dealing with the cape and trying to get the cape situated when you're trying to do dynamic A.C.B.A. is sort of a problem. And you know, the articulation is there, and you know, it's a good looking figure, but it really wasn't the Moon Knight that I wanted. You know, I wanted a classic version of the character, and I think most people did as well. But it is a good figure. If you're able to kit bash some sort of cloth cape with some wire or something in it, it takes this figure over the top. But you know, the regular stock version of the figure couldn't make my top 10, but it does deserve a mention. And before we jump into number 4, I think that the Vulture Builder Wings, the Spider-Man Homecoming series Beetle figure here deserves an honorable mention. I think this is a slept-on figure, but I I do think it was a very clean figure. I think they did a great job replicating how the beetle shell and the wings worked on this particular suit for this villain. It's a classic Spider-Man villain. I think that they did a really good job here. The figure is very comic accurate, and it's a good looking piece, man. Coming in at number 4 was the Okoye Build-A-Figure Wave Namor, and this was a figure that was long overdue, highly anticipated for us to finally get Hasbro to redo. The original one that they put out was probably one of the worst Marvel Legends ever made. It was very, very bad, and this is a step above that, a step way above that. The fact that they gave us the interchangeable hands and the interchangeable head, and the sculpt and the mold that they picked for this was spot on in my opinion. I think they did a really good job on this one. He's so essential to a lot of different things that we want to do. Defenders, early Illuminati, you know, the list goes on. And the kit bashing possibilities with this particular body are up there. So this one made it in at number 4 on my top 10 of 2017. And one quick honorable mention before we get into number 3. This is from that same Okoye Build-A-Figure wave. This is the Killmonger figure from the upcoming Black Panther movie. And Hasbro outdid themselves with this particular figure. Like I said in a review, or in one of the reviews from this wave, I think that this was the superior figure out of this and the Black Panther from the same wave, but I do like what they did with Black Panther as well. And you know, these are movie figures. I got to give them a mention. I'm not a huge fan of the movie figures like that, but when they do a great job, I got to give them credit where credit is due. And this one came out nice. It's a great body mold. The texturing on the costume looks great. The paintwork looks great. You get 2 sets of interchangeable hands. The articulation is top notch. And like I also mentioned previously, I'd like to see them utilize this buck for comic-based Black Panther at some point in this year. Coming in at number 3 on my top 10 of 2017 was the Warlock Build-A-Figure Wave Sunfire. This is a figure that has been highly anticipated, one I think that fans have been waiting for a long time. We've never received the 6-inch version of this figure. It's going to bring us closer to completing 80s style X-Men from the comic books. So, you know, I'm a big fan of that as far as team building. Only thing I would say is that I'm a little unhappy that we didn't get an unmasked head. That would have really taken this figure over the top. That and some interchangeable hands, but still, they picked a great buck for this figure. The costume is pretty basic. It's very accurate to the comic books. You know, everything about this guy just came out really nice. Like I said, aside from the interchangeable head or hands, I think this figure was top notch. And coming in at number 2 on my top 10 of 2017 from Hasbro Marvel Legends was the Invincible Iron Man from the Okoye Build-A-Figure wave. This was a wave that was released right before the end of the year, but being that it was released in 2017, this Iron Man had to make my list. This is the best Iron Man that we ever received from Marvel Legends, and it fully completes our all new, all different Avengers team. So that was big. That was a big way for Hasbro to end the year. And this figure is very nice, one I would highly recommend. I love the articulation. I think it is very accurate to his comic book counterpart. And, you know, it's just a very clean, nice looking figure. It's a great representation for Iron Man. And I almost forgot, you got a set of interchangeable hands and an interchangeable head with this figure. A very nice modern take on Tony Stark. And you can use the head on some of the suited bodies that Marvel Legends has already produced. And so, yeah, this one definitely came in high on the list, number 2. And one more honorable mention here before I get into my number 1 pick for the best Marvel Legend in 2017. I had to give a mention to the HasCon exclusive X-Force Deadpool. And not because he really deserved to be in the top 10, but he deserves a mention because I'm anticipating what we might get in the event that Hasbro decides to do this costume again on that new buck that they're going to be giving us for the 90s Deadpool. I believe that figure shares the same mold as the Spider-Man 2099, if I'm not mistaken, or Sunfire, but he'll definitely have the butterfly joints and a much greater range of motion and better articulation than this Bucky Cat mold. I'm pretty much over this mold, at least for Deadpool, that is. But like I said, for the possibility, I got to give this guy a mention, and the fact that it looks like Hasbro might be trying to give us a complete X-Force. That would be really, really good. And real quick, before I get into number one, I should probably also mention that the fact that this was a HasCon exclusive and the fact that HasCon exclusives are even a thing is big too. So the possibility of more exclusives and more HasCons, I believe they're going to skip 2018 for a HasCon event, but it'll be back in 2019. So that is a pretty big milestone, and being that this figure kicked that off, I think he deserved a mention. All right, I lied. Before I get into number one, I'm going to talk about a few more things that I think need to be talked about. Some of these may not be honorable mentions, but again, it's just something that's on my mind that I think should be addressed in this video. So this goon from the Hydra 2-pack that they released later in the year was cool. This was great. I'd like to see them expand on this idea and do this a bit more. Do it with SHIELD agents, do it with the AIM soldiers, and maybe even expand and do something new like the Hellfire Club goons or something like that. So keep doing this, Hasbro. This is cool, and you know, army building is a huge part of display art, toy photography, A.C.B.A. So keep doing this. Now, no matter what, I always collect the Build-A-Figure from every single wave. Even if I get rid of some of the movie-based figures within the wave, I always hold on to every single Build-A-Figure. I have every single Build-A-Figure from Marvel Legends ever. And so, you know, I actually thought this Build-A-Figure was nice. I thought the figure actually came out really nice, but it was a very small BAF. And I'd like to see Hasbro kind of move away from that and start giving us big BAF after big BAF after big BAF. I don't really want to see these small figures that could easily be packed into a clamshell and just be a figure that's part of the wave. But I do understand that when you buy 6 figures or 8 figures and you get 1 figure free, you know, it's not really a huge deal. You'd like it to be a really big figure, but essentially you're still getting 1 figure free. So I don't complain too often, but again, I'd like to see bigger BAFs moving forward. All right, Hasbro. We long overdue for a proper Luke Cage. While I did appreciate the Defenders box set, it was pretty underwhelming overall. This was not the Luke Cage that anybody really wanted. You guys have to know by now that everybody wants a nice street clothes Luke Cage where his pants aren't mega tight. We don't want jeggings Luke Cage. No, this is not really what we wanted. Although this outfit was comic accurate, it was accurate in terms of his look for the Mighty Avengers. And I do like the fact that you can remove the gauntlets. We need a brand new body mold for Luke Cage, something that fits the character perfectly, something that's new, that you guys haven't done before. And we need a proper Luke Cage with a beanie that's removable, interchangeable hands, all of that good stuff, you know. This guy has been an integral part of the Marvel Universe for the past 10, 12 years. You know, he's been very relevant. He's led quite a few teams. He's made his way, and he's been a prominent part of so many storylines over the past 10, 15 years. So it's about time we get a proper representation of this figure, of this character in figure form. Oh man, and this guy right here probably was my worst Marvel Legend of 2017. Probably my pick for the worst Marvel Legend of 2017 because it was one that was so highly anticipated, and it was a dud. It just was not a great figure. It was a terrible choice of this buck for this character. Like I mentioned when I reviewed this figure, you can't put his legs all the way back because of how the butt is cut on this figure. They needed to put Blade on a more articulated body. This just wasn't the right pick. He needed butterfly shoulders so he can you know, do all types of things when you're posing him and he's wielding his sword. He needed definitely better articulation in the pelvic area. You know, it just was not a great choice. And even the deco, the costume was just not the greatest. He also needed an interchangeable head to show him screaming or showing his teeth. I mean, that's one of his part of his power set. You know, you got to actually include something that represents the character's power set when you posing them up. Again, these are action figures, so you know you got to represent the character's power set in some form or fashion with the accessories that you pack in. He needed interchangeable hands. This buck was just trash. So yeah, this was my worst Marvel Legend of 2017. Being that our characters of African descent are few and far in between, you guys got to really knock it out of the park when you do give us one. You know, you get a lot of opportunities on aliens and non-black characters, white characters, you know, and a lot of the white characters are produced 20 and 30 times like Iron Man, Wolverine, Spider-Man. So, you know, you got to get it right when you give us a black character. You know, represent for all of the collectors out there and all of the fans that want to see great figures of characters that, you know, look like them. So that's what we got to do. All right, let's move into number one. And probably not a surprise to most, but at the top of my list, my number one pick for the top Marvel Legend of 2017 was the Man-Thing Build-A-Figure Wave Bullseye. This was a comic accurate version of the character. The fact that they gave you the unmasked head and this pointing finger alone completely knocks out the original Bullseye that they gave us, that Toy Biz gave us many years ago. I can still see some people holding on to hope and trying to say that that figure is still better than this one, and it's just not true. This figure was very well done. Hasbro went above and beyond, like I said, giving us the interchangeable hands and the other hand with the sort of throwing knives action feature. I do think that probably could have been executed just a little bit better, but the fact that they even tried it and they included it in the pack was just great. You get the knife and you get the gun, and you can holster both of those on his belt. And the suit was comic accurate. They gave us the sort of bluish hue this time instead of black. You know, I think it was a great nod to the character. And again, getting back to this unmasked head, not only can you use it, you know, like this on the stock body, but you can use it on a suited body. You can use it on a Hawkeye body and use it as part of your Dark Avengers. You know, they gave you a lot of playability and fun factor with this figure, and the kit bashing possibilities were up there as well. So that's why this was my my number one pick for 2017. Tell me what your picks are. Put them down in the comments. Thanks for hanging out. I'm sure this video is going to be 20 minutes or better, but I'd like to hear from you guys as well. And do not forget to vote in our poll for the top 10 Marvel Legends of 2017. The link for that will be in the description below, as well as a link for a poll to the top toy company or brand of 2017. So thanks for hanging out. Rate, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, peace.
That's crispy.